Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be sharing about the weekend that I spent with Leila Hormozi, Alex Hormozi, and the whole acquisition.com scaling team. It was a select group of 50 high-level entrepreneurs, and we got to spend 2 days with them in Las Vegas talking about how to bring our businesses to exponentially higher levels using the exact systems that they use with their portfolio companies to, on average, 3x, 5x their profit in a very short window of time. So I'm going to be sharing the notes from one of the sessions, as well as a special calculator and spreadsheet that they use for their value accelerator method with all their clients. But before we jump in, if you don't know who I am, my name is Yamuna. I lived as a monk for 4 years in monasteries all over the world. I then started Jivanam Ayurveda and Wellness, which was a wellness education company where we taught bodywork and holistic trainings. And I now run Conscious Business Mastery, where we partner with some of the highest level thought leaders, transformation coaches, holistic coaches on the planet, and help them scale their missions to $1 million plus per year. If you like what you see, please subscribe, like, comment. I get back to all this stuff personally. Now let's jump in. This video would be extremely long if I were to cover literally 16 hours of workshops and time that we spent with their team. But the simplicity of what I'm about to share is the foundation for how they blast off every single company in their portfolio. And when you understand the lesson that I'm about to drop, it is going to change how you do business and really help you see what's possible with a few small changes. So the first presentation that they made to get into it is that great CEOs build great companies. They polled the room. How many of you guys are looking to sell your company? Some hands went up. And how many of you guys are looking to keep running your company for the long term? And other hands went up. And essentially what they said is that whether you want to sell your business or keep it forever, the path is the same, which is to build great things. Great CEOs think more like investors than managers. They master the art of resource allocation, getting the best returns for your time, money, and effort. And so they posed this question to us of how many of you are working on your business, but it doesn't really feel like it's growing much. If so, you have not understood the art of resource allocation. I'll put this visual on the screen, but they put this Punnett square of right problem, right way, and wrong way. And essentially they were sharing, if you are working on your business and it's not growing, it means you're not in that box, the one box out of 4 that's solving the right problem the right way. Because you could identify the right problem in your business that's going to take it to the next level, but try to solve it the wrong way. Or you could also try to be solving the wrong problem, which I think is much more common in my experience with hundreds of entrepreneurs helping them grow, that they're focused on the wrong problems. They're stuck in the weeds. They're stuck in the minutia. They don't even have perspective on what the biggest problem in their business is. And because of that, even if you try to solve the wrong problem the right way, you're still not going to get the ultimate goal. And certainly solving the wrong problem the wrong way, that's like the quickest way to burn out, right? But really, all of these lead to burnout other than the right problem, right way. And so this is essentially where they introduce the theory of constraints, which allows us to understand how to solve the right problem the right way. Businesses grow up to their constraint and no further. Allocate more resources to solving your number one constraint. And, it's really funny. They shared, obviously as a juxtaposition to the theory of constraints, is the best business is one that grows reliably, requires no capital, and earns lots of money. Alex Hormozi, he gave his rubric for what the best company in the world would be. It would be something that's unique, expensive, sticky, which means it's hard to leave as a customer, air. He used the word air, which really he meant like low cost to fulfill, right? It's like selling air. And managed by someone who is hardworking, intelligent, and honest, and acts as though they can never sell the company and it's the only thing that they own. So I thought this rubric for building a great company was super awesome. It has to be unique, right? Something specific about it, whether that's a really specific methodology that you're selling, with a lot of our clients, we help them develop that specific methodology, whether it's a super specific person you're selling to, a very specific way of delivering, something that makes your thing unique. Expensive, right? The higher the ticket you have, the more margins you have to spend on ads, to hire a team. And it's much easier to get one person to buy something for $10,000 than to get 10,000 people to buy something for $1. And sticky. And I'm going to tell you actually the 9 ways that they told us to make your business more sticky. So this will help you get the point across more. So the 9 ways to make your business more sticky. And I want you to really think about these for your company. So the first one is consumption. If there's anything that the client has to consume, right? Like obviously food is one of a very obvious example, right? If someone eats a chocolate bar, it's a product that they consume once and then they would have to buy again to consume again. So are there any elements of your business that are consumable, right? They get it, they use it, but then they would have to buy again to get another one. Okay. So that's one way to make it more sticky. The second way to make it more sticky is collateral. So perhaps you are running ads for somebody, but you are running all those ads through your account, right? Which I don't actually agree with at all. A lot of media agencies do it. When we run ads for our clients, we don't do that because, I don't like the concept of that. And you can really screw somebody over with their whole business. But that's an example, right? Do you have something that is theirs that they need? Number 3 is the cost of switching, right? So having a really high cost of switching to another method or another product is a way to make the product more sticky, right? Example I can think of is like a CRM. So software like HubSpot or Go High Level, whatever it is, like migrating from those huge database softwares is very, very painful and costly and takes a lot of time. And so it's a reason why people don't want to do the upgrade, is because even though like something like HubSpot might be better, and it probably is, one of the best softwares out there, to switch over to it is just a lot of pain. And you also have to learn a bunch. You have to learn how to use that new interface. Number 4 is choices and alternatives. So the less choices and alternatives they have for a product like yours out there, the more they're going to pay you for yours. Number 5 is causes. So if your company or product stands for a cause that they believe in and you're really all about it, right? Like some companies started doing this where like you buy a chocolate bar and we'll plant 10 trees, or you buy a chocolate bar and we'll give back, 3, or like Tom's, for instance, right? The shoes, you buy a pair and we'll give a pair to a child in need, right? It makes it so much more sticky because you're now associating that purchase with something that the client believes in and that they're doing good, and you're reinforcing good behavior. Number 6 is to control money flow. So like, for instance, a payment processor or some sort of subscription service, like if it controls the flow of money into your life, then you're probably going to keep using it. Like you're going to keep paying Stripe those processing fees because it allows you to have money flow in your business. Which, by the way, don't use Stripe, don't use Square, don't use any of those processors. Get yourself a real payment processor. If you want to know what we use, just drop a comment. I'll share about it. Number 7 sticky way to make your business more sticky is community. So if you create an awesome community, people won't want to leave. I heard an example another entrepreneur talked about of like the highest level dentist. There was like a Facebook group or community with like 10,000 dentists in it, and you had to be like a high level dentist to be a part of it, and you pay a yearly subscription. And people would just never leave because they could just post a picture of like, hey, here's an x-ray of this person's teeth. And then they would get all these expert opinions of what to do. And you can't find that community anywhere else of like 10,000 super high level dentists that are like your collaborators. And like, for instance, what we're building more and more of with Conscious Business Mastery is we have over 120 people in the community right now who are all really high level coaches, healers, relationship experts, trauma experts, addiction recovery experts. And there's very, very, very few places out there where someone's not only good at their holistic transformation craft, but also very good at business and dedicated to making their mission pretty big. So that's really cool. Number 8 is contracts. So obviously having contracts. If you don't have contracts, definitely have contracts. Like having cancellation clauses, like you need to cancel 60 days or 30 days or 90 days before, or else like we reinitiate you into the next contract. Things like that make your business more sticky, obviously. And then number 9 is billing cadence. So what this means is like how often you are charged. And like, for instance, I never sign up for the yearly version, billed yearly of a software, because I know I only have one day out of 365 days that if I don't remember or like make some note in my GCal to cancel it, I'm just going to be screwed. And I don't want to pay a year ahead for a software that I know I may or may not use in 8 months from now, right? If I just want to try it out. So I always do monthly. And then if I use it for longer than a year and I can foresee staying in another year, then I switch to the yearly pay. But like the little bit of savings isn't worth it for me to not keep track of and to lose it in the matrix of my finances. So those are 9 ways to make your business more sticky. Now, the main thing that I want to share with you guys is the exact method that the companies within acquisition.com's portfolio are using to dramatically increase their enterprise value. And they took us through this step by step, and it took a long time, but I'm going to give you the very quick breakdown. And it's called the Value Accelerator method. And the core principle behind it is that good businesses, whether you want to sell or whether you want to hold the company forever, is to increase as much value in the company and decrease as much risk in the company. And so essentially they gave us all these different value metrics to see how valuable is our company. And then they gave us 5 different main risks that we could have in our company and assess, do we have this risk or do we not have this risk? And essentially what it allowed us to do is take all the value metric points and add them up by a certain rubric. I'll show you. I actually built it out for you guys. And then all the risk metrics, and you get a certain grade for those as well. And you subtract the two, and it pops out a number on the other side of which you can multiply your EBITDA by or your profit by. And now you have your enterprise value. So you can see from an enterprise value standpoint, how much is your company worth, right? How much would someone potentially pay you for your company, right? Which is a really cool idea. And again, no matter if you want to sell or not sell, the idea is that the less risk and the more value, the better the company. And that's the only company that's going to survive over a long period of time. So you want to go through this anyway. So prepare to get a bit nerdy because I'm about to jump in and show you guys what I got for you right now. All right. So remember how I was sharing that essentially what we're going to do is look at all the value adds to your business and all the value subtractors in your business, which is the risk. And it's going to spit out a number on the other side where then we can see our enterprise value. And what's cool about this is that it's going to reveal, using the theory of constraints, what's like the biggest 1 or 2 things we can change in our business to massively explode the level of revenue and the level of value that we have in our business. So this is shocking once you see this. All right. So as far as the key value metrics, I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds here. If you want to look up each of these, you can. But one was revenue. This is super simple. It's the easiest way is to just look at the total cash that you've collected in your business over the last 12 months. Now, obviously, revenue can be expressed as monthly revenue, and a lot of people like to inflate this, or annual. Like some people are like, I make 10 million a year, but you can't count based on contracts. You can't count based on promises. When you talk about revenue, you have to specify what revenue. And most people, when they're talking about revenue, you need to talk about cash actually deposited in the bank. So just look at the total cash deposit in your business bank account in the last 12 months. All right, EBITDA. EBITDA means earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, right? Which is really just a fancy name for profit, if I'm simplifying it. You can use the EBITDA calculator online, but for most small businesses, you essentially just had to find out what's the net profit that you have in your business before taxes. So out of all the cash that you collected in the last 12 months, how much of it was profit, right? How much of it was profit? And don't exclude the amount that you paid to taxes, like include that amount. And just use this number if you want a simplified version of EBITDA, because a lot of you guys are not going to have like depreciation, amortization, etc. All right, revenue growth percentage. This is the difference in revenue between two time periods expressed as a percentage. So actually, in this fancy calculator, down here, forget all this other stuff up here. You're just going to plug it in. I'll show you how. But down here, I actually made a revenue growth percentage calculator. So like, let's say you're comparing the first 6 months of the year to the last 6 months of the year. You just put the revenue of the first 6 months of the year in this little box. Let's just say it was 500,000 in the first 6 months of the year. And let's just say it was $1 million. How many zeros I got? Okay. In the second half of the year, just as an example, right? You had 100% revenue growth, right? Which means that from the first 6 months to the second 6 months, your company doubled in the amount of revenue. So it's showing the rate at which you're getting more cash into the business. So I'm going to delete this so you can fill it in yourself. But yeah, if your business has existed for less than a year, just use month to month, right? So the last 30 days versus the 30 days before that, or divide your operating timeline in half. So like if you've operated for 8 months, just compare the first 4 months of the business to the second 4 months of business revenue. All right, yearly revenue retention. This is just answering the question, how many people are still buying your stuff? So over the last year, what percentage of your revenue was from repeat customers? So what you're going to do is take the repeat revenue this year you had. Let's say you had $200,000 that came in from repeat clients. And then you're going to divide that by the total revenue this year. All right. To see out of all the money that came in, how much of it was retained from previous clients. Okay. So people who bought twice or people who bought 3 times. What's all the money that came not from a first time purchase? All right. There's yearly revenue retention. How many people are still buying your stuff? EBITDA margin. So again, it's just basically profit margin. Efficiency, and that's going to tell us the efficiency of your business as a whole, right? Higher margin equals more money per dollar of revenue. And you can handle volatility and downturns, right? If you're operating on a very, very narrow margin, 5%, 10% profit, then all it takes is one little thing to happen and boom, your margin's gone. Expenses increase a little bit, boom, your margin's gone. So you want to have very healthy margins. And this you're just going to get obviously by looking at the EBITDA and looking at the revenue and dividing the two. Okay. That's just the amount of profit and expressing it as a percentage, right? So if you made $1 million and, of revenue and 500,000 of that was profit, you'd have a 50% EBITDA margin. So pretty simple. I know I'm getting nerdy here. This is probably the more complicated one to calculate out of all of them, but it is one of the most important factors. So this is the LTV to CAC ratio, which is essentially telling us how aggressively you can scale your spend and marketing and expand and expand and expand and get new customers. So LTV is essentially the total profit from the average customer after subtracting the delivery cost. I'll explain what I mean in a second. And CAC is the total cost of acquiring a customer. That's what CAC stands for, which is the marketing, sales, and labor cost to get a new client. All right. So I'm going to give you an example and hopefully you can do this for yourself. You get a $6,000 client and as part of the fulfillment, you provide $500 of supplements and you pay a nutrition coach $500 to give a few consultations for the client. So that's $1,000 total that you'd subtract from the $6,000. And now you have an LTV, or basically a profit from that customer of $5,000. Now, in order to get that client, you spent $1,000 on ads and you paid a salesperson a 10% commission on that $6,000 of $600. Right? I know it's getting a little funky, But essentially you paid for ads and you had to pay, let's say, a hypothetical salesperson 10%. So now you've spent $1,600 and that's your CAC, right? So you have 1,600 CAC and 5K LTV. Now we just divide the two, right? And that would be 3.125 when we divide 5,000 by 1,600. So we have an LTV to CAC ratio of 3.125 to 1. All right, stick with me here. I know we're getting nerdy. Now let's go through the risk factors. All right, so risk factors are the chance that loss or harm occurs in the next 3 to 5 years. And all risk lies on a continuum from almost nothing to a lot of risk. So there's a few real quick we'll go through. The first is called the key man risk. And this is a risk that is in your business. If one or a few key members of the team leave, the business will be in jeopardy, right? So some questions around this are you in all of the ads? Are you the main person delivering? Do you have all the biggest accounts? If you go on vacation, will sales go down? Is it just your face on the Instagram page? These risks make your business not a sellable asset, but just a high-paying job, okay? And some of the easiest tests to see if you have the key man risk, which it should be pretty obvious, but is one, a time audit. So actually going through how everybody in the company spends all their time. And if some people are doing a bunch of tasks that are irreplaceable by somebody else, or if you're serving a ton of different functions in your calendar, when you look at all the tasks that you're doing that are just not actually replaceable by a clear role, that's one risk, way that risk shows up. Another is just go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks with no electronics and see what happens to your business. If you can replace yourself, the good news is you can replace anyone else on the team, which it's really awesome as I begin to replace myself in so many functions in my business. We definitely have key man risk, right? I'm in all the ads, but it's reduced a lot. Okay, and we're going to keep working on it. So number 2 is key customer risk. And this is a risk that you have if one or a few customers make up 20% or more of your revenue. Okay, so if you have like a few clients who make up the majority or 20% or more of your revenue, that's a key customer risk. Okay, better to have your revenue source spread out over more customers. So if they leave, you're not, screwed. Number 3 is a single channel risk, which means that 70% or more of customers come from one channel of lead generation. So either just one media platform like Instagram, or one affiliate, or one list, like an email list or whatever, or one following like YouTube subscribers, etc. So the thing is that they're showing we have to understand that algorithms, laws, and platforms are all subject to rapid changes that could eliminate this method of lead generation from your business. So if you're getting all your business from YouTube and something changes about the YouTube algorithm that screws you over, what happens to your business now, right? Not a sellable asset and not a business that can sustain for the foreseeable future because there's a lot of risk to it. Okay, number 4 is market risk. So is your business in a market that's shrinking, sketchy, small, or constrained, right? Do you have a low TAM, which is a total addressable market, essentially meaning like how many people in the world is your offer even relevant to? Is it like super small? Is it too niche, too locally constrained, right? Or is there a growing market? Will your industry grow at least 5% or more this year? That's a key question to ask. All right, and then data risk. Not knowing your numbers. So if I asked you your LTV, your CAC, your revenue growth, your EBITDA, your close rate, your show rate, your average cash collected on the first call, your churn percentage, your time to value, would you know all those numbers? If not, your blind spots allow you to become blind-sided. So if your data is tracked manually, takes weeks to consolidate, is not refreshed daily, has wrong or missing or mismatched numbers, if you have to estimate or guess any of these numbers, you have a data risk. So the solution is to get a high-level customer relationship management tool, a CRM, or an experienced accountant or a controller of finances, and create a culture in your team of how do you know that, right? Which is like, Well, what data are you looking at that gives you that information? Okay, so you can create a data-driven company and data-driven way of running your teams. So that brings us to the nerdiest creation I've ever made for a YouTube video, which is the VAM calculator, which is the value acceleration method by Alex Hormozi. So essentially all these things that we just went through here with the value metrics and with the key risks, you're just going to fill in. So revenue, go ahead and put it in, column A right here. EBITDA, go ahead and calculate your EBITDA and put it in here. And then based on what you put in this column, you're going to see the EBITDA range, and you're going to get your EBITDA multiple of which you're going to put in this green box. All right, so you fill this green box in using this right here. All right. And then value adds. This makes your business healthy. Okay, these are all things that make your business healthy. So put in your revenue growth percent, put in your yearly revenue retention percent, your EBITDA margin, your LTV to CAC, and then you're going to use these rubrics on the side of each to determine whether you're going to put a 0 or some other number in here, right? 1 or 2, 0 or 2, 0.5, 0.5 on all these different metrics here. Okay, so here's the rubric for each of them, and then put in the right value add multiple here. Okay, once you have that done, put your value subtractors, which is your risk, which you're just in this column going to put a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you have this risk? Yes or no? So put Y or N in each of these columns here. And then if it's a yes, you're going to put the value 3, value 2, value 1, 1, 1. If it's a no, then you put a 0. Okay? And these green things here that already have a number in them, they're all going to be calculated for you. All right, so once you fill all these things in, you're essentially going to get your adjusted valuation multiple, which is basically all the value minus all the risks, and it's going to give you a number that's then going to be multiplied by your profit, and that's going to give you your current enterprise value here. Okay, so once you fill it in, you'll be able to see your current enterprise value. Now, if you have more risk than value adds, you're probably going to have a 0 multiple, which is very, very common. So don't freak out if you have a 0 multiple, which means then you'll have a 0 enterprise value. Okay, but by looking at this sheet, what's cool is you can see, based on the theory of constraints, what the biggest levers are for you to create exponentially more enterprise value. So for instance, like if you have key man risk and you eliminate key man risk, and you turn this from a 3 to a 0, and your normal multiple was at 0, now you just made your multiple 3. So you just made your whole business triple, really, in enterprise value by eliminating the key man risk, right? So you have to look at what are the biggest numbers and like the things that you can work on today and over time to either eliminate as far as risk, they're the biggest ones that we have, or the biggest value adds we can add in as well. So can we get revenue retention to above 80%? Great, that's going to give us 2 more points. Can we get our margin, a profit margin above a 30%? Great, that's going to give us a 0.5. Can we get our LTV to CAC above 10? Great, that's going to give us a 0.5. Can we get our EBITDA and our revenue up so that we can fall into the next multiple? Like if you go above $1 million, boom, you just went from 1 multiple to 2.5 multiple. So these things compound on each other. And this is really like going to allow you to see like the next few steps in your business, how to plug this in and how to either alleviate a risk or compound the value addition to the next level to create a much larger multiple and a much more valuable business. So this is essentially the concept that they taught us within one of the sections of our time together. And I hope that this was valuable. I know we got super nerdy, super in the deep end, but this is how big things are built. And no matter if you want to sell or you want to keep your business, this is applicable for you, and it'll show you some blind spots. And most of the time, people don't want to look at data because they fear what they might see. They're not going to like what they're going to see. So if this was valuable at all for you, it might be like way too up in the sky for some of you guys. But in the future, check this out and drop me a comment, like, subscribe, share this if you found it cool. And Weekend with Mozi was absolutely awesome. And I'm excited to keep growing with them. So take care, guys.